Greetings, delegates. My name is Agastya, and I'm your chairperson for UNHRC at VMAN 2018. In this introductory video, I shall be covering three broad areas. Firstly, what is UNHRC? Secondly, the agenda, right to privacy in the digital age. And thirdly, what I expect of you, the delegate, when you come to committee. In terms of what is UNHRC, it's very simple. The HRC is an intergovernmental body under the UN system, which comprises of 47 member states that promotes and protects human rights. It does so in two broad ways. First, it investigates. So, if individuals or organizations have complaints about a certain member state that has violated human rights, they complain to the UNHRC, and the UNHRC investigates those specific instances of human rights violation. That could be alleged human rights violations in Myanmar, in Kashmir, in Balochistan, in Palestine, etc. The other thing that UNHRC does is discuss and pass resolutions on broad topics such as female genital mutilation in Africa or around the world or in Asia, then LGBTQ issues, LGBTQ rights, the right to privacy, and so on and so forth. The list is endless. So that's what the UNHRC does. And you can read, this is just a short video that I'm doing, but you can read about what they do, throughout these years, what they've been doing on their website. They have all their resolutions put up, they have their functions put up, their complaint mechanism they have shown very beautifully. So you can go through all of that. That research material is there for you out on the internet, on their own website. So that is the HRC. Then when it comes to our own agenda, the right to privacy in the digital age, let me tell you that in my opinion, there's no more relevant agenda that can be discussed. This agenda is the most pertinent, the most relevant agenda that can be discussed today. And I shall, it's for the following reasons. Privacy as a topic, as a concept, has been is more being spoken about currently. So whether it's India, whether it's Europe, whether it's America, the concerns of the attacks of privacy of individuals is increasing. And at the same time, you have governments across the world, very strong governments, wanting to increase surveillance, or increase or gather more information about people. So I don't want to go very deep into this agenda because this is a very vast agenda. I can go on for hours, and I'm sure that once you start reading up, you will realize it's a very vast topic. But broadly, it's very easily understandable that privacy is antithetical to the idea of state surveillance, state gathering information about individuals. And the UNHRC, would all the nations put together would have to discuss as to how they can bridge this gap of these two very fundamentally opposite ideas. Now, obviously, no nation is going to come out and say that we want to gather information about individuals. Everybody is going to say that we want to support the right to privacy. But then there are issues that each nation has with how to go about protecting the right of individuals, and there are two major concepts. State surveillance is not necessarily a proper concept. I would rather put it as state security. So there are times wherein the state would want to protect its security by gathering more information about individuals so that it can prevent terror attacks, for example. And on the other hand, you have, of course, the individual and his own personal information, his privacy, and how to deal with those two ideas. And it's going to be a fascinating conference because in this increasing digital age, where governments can have billions and billions of um, bytes of data about individuals, um, how these governments and these diplomats are going to discuss the protection of the right of a single individual. And it's almost you can say hypocritical in a certain sense, because governments don't want to protect the rights of citizens across the world, and yet the representatives of those governments are going to come and say that we want protection of the rights of individual citizens. So it's fascinating, and this is a debate that has raged across the world. It's primarily the courts that have been protecting the rights of individuals, whether it's the European Court of Human Rights, whether it's in India, for example, the Indian Supreme Court, which declared privacy to be a fundamental right. So it's the courts that have been protecting the right to privacy of individuals, and not governments. So when these governments or these government representatives come together in the UN or the UNHRC to discuss how to protect the rights of individuals, it's almost ironic. And yet it's going to be very crucial, because all of them are going to make pertinent points. All of you delegates representing those governments are going to be making pertinent points as to how these governments can balance state security or state interest along with the interest of the individual and his information and his rights. So you know it's I won't go any more into this topic, but it's going to be a very enriching discussion that we are going to have in committee. um, and what I expect in terms of that is broadly two things. One is research, and and apart from that, the other MUN skills that I would expect of you. Now, in terms of research, I do believe that at least some of you, if not many of you, will be first timers. So, what I expect is a very sound research. I don't want anybody quoting Wikipedia or any newspaper articles to me in committee, or to the committee. I expect research to be done from UN reports, resolutions. Um, at best, you can quote Al Jazeera, but I would expect Reuters reports. Um, Al Jazeera and BBC I would permit, but again, it's not preferred. And I would expect you to read a lot of scholarly articles. So you can quote scholarly articles and say that this is the opinion of so and so person, because then it would be an opinion of somebody who has written the article. Um, in terms of privacy, I would expect all of you to, since we're talking about privacy, it's available on the internet. The 1909 Harvard Law Review, written by Justice Louis Brandeis, LOUIS BRANDEIS, and it's supposed to be the probably one of the most important documents, and one of the first breakthroughs to the concept of privacy. So I think it's a must read for each and every delegate coming into the committee, Justice Louis Brandeis. You can read about him, but especially read the article that he wrote for the Harvard Law Review, and then combine it with the Supreme Court judgment in the Indian Supreme Court judgment on Aadhaar, the Indian Supreme Court judgment on privacy, the European human rights, European Court of Human Rights judgments on Big Brother versus UK, Big Brother Watch versus UK, I believe. So there are several of these judgments. I don't expect you to read these judgments because these go on to hundreds of pages. But if you can read at least short articles that describe what these judgments talk about, you'll be well informed as to how to combine the two ideas of privacy, digital age, and then the two broader ideas of privacy and the intrinsic right of the individuals versus state interest. Um, and this in the context of America, South America, Canada, China, Russia, Africa. I would expect you to take all of this information, and then depending on whichever country you get, to contextualize it, to apply it for your country, and then using that represent your country. That's your broad role, and that's what I expect you to do. So a well-researched delegate, in my opinion, would not be somebody who has just read a lot of on privacy and on digital age. It's also somebody who has applied it and who can apply it and contextualize it. So this is what I expect. Apart from that, in terms of money skills, I'll explain it more in detail on the committee day. But because again, I don't want to make this a 20-25 minute video. I just want, I introduce this. I want good speaking skills. I would like, I think that's a reasonable expectation. I want people to convince others that their idea is right, because it's not about I'm right and you're wrong. It's about I'm right and I believe that your idea is not bad, but my idea is better. And that convincing ability is what distinguishes MUNs from debates, when you're just trying to prove the other side is wrong. So I expect that quality to come out. And finally, the quality to negotiate, to lobby, and to get a set of people, set of allies to form a bloc, and vote in a certain pattern, vote in terms of certain ideas of the bloc. So all of these concepts, of course, can be dealt in detail during committee. And as you, for first timers especially, as you sit in committee and observe, you will realize better what I'm talking about. What I would like you, this is a message especially for first timers, what I would like you to do is prepare a very good base, have excellent research income for the committee, try and speak as much as possible, and the rest you will learn by observation. So with that, thank you. And I expect a great conference. I expect very well researched delegates. So please read and come so that we can have a very educated and very enriching discussion in committee. Thank you.